Welcome everyone to our Monday Mindset. And this week we are going to talk your questions and I'm going to answer your questions about sales and acquisition. And we are going to spend the entire 40 minutes doing just that. We had some folks who sent me some questions via the original post out in the Facebook group. And then I am going to then address any questions we get in chat at the same time. If you happen to be watching a replay, do put your questions in the comments of the replay because we will also come back and answer those as well, even if it's just a quick Loom or quick video to answer those for you. So I'm going to start just by talking briefly about lead generation and sales. And as you know, it's one of the backbones of having any business, right? Without customers, we literally don't have a business. So it's a necessary evil to generate leads and then, of course, to close sales from those leads. The problem is most of us were not trained at Harvard Business School, right? We probably started our career off in jobs and doing something. And then at some point, we decided to start our own businesses. And as such, many of us just literally don't have sales skills, closing skills, those types of things. So what is somebody to do when you don't have those skills? Well, all I can do is tell you what I did. And that was a constant thirst to learn more. I would read books. I would go watch YouTube videos and do whatever I could to try to learn the techniques or the methods, not only to attract customers, but then to close them. And what I found over the years was that what worked for one person doesn't normally work for somebody else. So when you think about some of the 1970s sales, right? When you go back a little bit and you think about the 60s or the 50s, when you think of people like Elmer who would talk about selling the sizzle and not the steak, some of that is true today, but for the most part, things have changed. The way we sell has changed. The way people consume their information, the way people interact with social media and other things, it's just different. And what I know doesn't work for a fact is that hard pressure type of sale. So I saw, a couple questions already in the Facebook group. And so I'm going to address those. So start thinking about your questions, because when you think about that hard sell, when you think about sales, if it just makes you sick to your stomach, that's how it used to make me feel. I literally would feel sick to my stomach before I would get on a sales call because I hated it. I hated everything about it. I hated about how it went. I hated why I was on that call. I just didn't like selling when I first started my business. And again, I tried to read and learn everything I could. And in the end, what changed for me is I tried to stop selling. And in our program, we have an entire module, entire week dedicated on what we call unselling. And what I mean by that is I had to figure something out about myself. And what it came down to is I don't like to sell. I don't like the discomfort. I don't like the feeling. But what I do like to do is help people. In fact, I'm in love with the idea of helping people. Making people's lives better makes me feel better about my own life. So how could I turn that into sales strategy? How could I not only help with lead generation, but with my strategies? And if you haven't really been around me a while and you haven't looked at a lot of what I talk about, let me briefly tell you that the way we sell is very pointed now. Everything we do is geared to get people to call us, people to call me asking for me to sell my services. We don't cold call. We don't go out there and do, pavement sales, as when you're hitting the pavement. We don't call people on the phone. We don't send a lot of cold email outreach. There's nothing wrong with those methods. The reason I choose not to do them is because that's the uncomfortable I don't like. So what I did is I designed every method I now use in my business. I designed every single method to get someone to pick up a phone and call me and ask me for information. And instead of being a salesperson, I became a consultant. I just became somebody who was listening for the problem, trying to figure out what the problem was, and then see if we had a solution that would solve their problem. If we did, it was just an educational discussion after that. And it led to more and more closes. In fact, my close ratio in the beginning was probably in the low 20s, maybe 30s. I would literally have 10 leads and close 2 or 3 of them. Now we close 7 to 8 out of 10. And I don't even feel bad about the 2 to 3 I don't close, because to me, they were tire kickers that normally weren't going to buy anyway, right? But of those who come to me with the intent to buy, I now close most of those. And it's because I stopped selling. So that's kind of what I want to preface. And we have some great questions that's going to help me dig into this today. But that's kind of the premise of our entire program, is how to do things to scale your business that are easier and feel better to you, rather than these forced methods and these forced systems that no matter how many I bought, no matter how many I did, it just didn't resonate with me, right? Every guru out there right now is selling some kind of lead gen. Oh, guaranteed to get you 10 customers a week, guaranteed to get you, hot, heavy leads. Is it really? And maybe it does. Maybe it does perform and get you those leads. Do you know what to do with them when you get them? Do you know how to close them or turn them into revenue? That's where I was back in the day. I didn't know how to do that. And I figured it all out. And what I do is very simple. I use simple, effective, free, or low offer methods to get people into the door, right? I sell them something small. I sell them something they can earn trust with me. Then after I'm in the door, I go on to sell my bigger and better things. Now, does that mean that always happens that way? No. We got a lead yesterday from someone right out the gate asking for an SEO quote. So sometimes we get right to the big stuff right away. But you know what? I'm still going to get in the door with them with a free service. I'm going to offer them a free analysis to get in the door. And that is always been our method, and it works fantastically. So let me get to your questions. Again, if you have questions, we're going to do them in the order in which we receive them. So if you have a question, get it out there now. It can be anything, sales or lead gen related. So I'm going to open up. I have a list of questions that I was given that were on our Facebook page. And I'm just going to go through these one at a time. Okay, so answering your questions. Sandy asked, what's the best way to get the attention of the actual owner of the local business and not just a staff member? Because the staff member will keep you away from the owner, right? So that's what Sandy wants to know. How do we get the business owner's attention, right? And Sandy, this is a lead generation question, right? It's not really a sales question. Sales is when we're ready to present. So right now we're just trying to get in the door, and Sandy wants to know, how do we get, to the decision maker? How do we get to the person that's going to be spending money, right? Oh, excuse me, I have allergies I'm dealing with today as well. So here's what I will say. The method that you get in the door with is super important. If you know there's a gatekeeper, if you know there's somebody who's between you and the owner, what method can you think of that would bypass that gatekeeper or make the gatekeeper want to open the gate? Okay. Now, here are some we've used in the past. And I'm not telling you they will work for you, but they've worked for us. The very number one thing that I use when I want to get to a customer that I've, got to get through the gatekeeper. Think about a dentist, right? They don't answer their phones. They don't read their own email. Half the time, they don't read their snail mail. They have admins and office managers and people we would have to get past in order to talk to them. So for me, I like what I call the interview method. The interview method. And that's where, in general, we simply either send cold email, call on the phone, whatever way you want to try it. We get in touch with the business and just let them know, hey, we're creating this article, or we're doing this video, or we're doing, writing a book, whatever you have that you're going to do. And we are interviewing 3 people for our book, for our article, for our blog, for our podcast, whatever it is. We were told that Dr. XYZ is one of the foremost experts on this subject, and we'd like to schedule a time to interview him. Notice I didn't ask, would you want to be in an interview? I said, we would like to schedule a time to interview him. When can we get on his calendar? I mean, what are they going to say? You call 10 businesses and you do that. I guarantee you're going to get on a schedule with at least one of them, probably more. So to me, making them the expert, right? You can't talk to the gatekeeper. You can't interview the gatekeeper, right? They're not qualified. We have no choice but to get to the actual expert. And so the gatekeeper is either going to keep that gate and say, no, they don't do interviews. Okay, thank you. Click, move on, right? Or they're going to say, well, I'll have to check with him, or I'll have to get on his schedule, or I'll have to, see. We've got our foot semi in the door, right? That's a great way. What you have to be, and you can come up with your own ways, but you have to be creative, and you have to think about what is it going to take to get around, that gatekeeper. Another great method we use is the directory listing method. And in the directory listing method, literally what we're doing there is we have directories for different niches, and we're going to contact the business owner direct via Facebook Messenger or some type of way. If we can find that way, we're going to get in their space and ask them, hey, by the way, we have this directory, and we're putting you on it absolutely free. There's no charge to be there, but I need you to confirm. In fact, I need permission from the business owner personally, right? I can't take, an admin. I literally have to have the business owner's permission because of privacy or whatever, whatever you want to say, to actually do this. And I need to confirm all the details. So either you're going to be talking to the business owner, or they're not going to be in your directory, right? So same idea, only the business owner would do, only the decision maker would do in that case. Again, a lot of these gatekeepers, they don't get this type of stuff very often, right? Most of us aren't very creative to do these types of things, but we did this during COVID in our directories. I was just playing to see if it would work. We did a directory for restaurants in the local area, who delivers, who doesn't. I was able to physically touch the actual business owner of 90% of the people we contacted on Facebook. Now, we were only using Facebook, so that was the method we were trying. And the business owners were actually talking to us, thanking us for putting them on the free directory during COVID, which was such a hard time for them, et cetera. Now, timing was everything on that one for restaurant owners, right? But right now, every business needs every leg up they can get. So consider that. And then the last one I'll tell you, Sandy, is mail. If you want to send cold mail, if you want to send letters or postcards or things like that, I prefer using a letter. I prefer using a white blank envelope, handwrite the business owner's name and the address of the business. Don't put the business name on there unless you think that it won't get delivered. And then on the envelope, write confidential. Confidential. Now, is that going to stop everyone from opening the mail? No. An admin's probably going to open that anyway, but it's a shot, right? When it's in that white envelope, when it's handwritten, people tend to be, oh, this is personal mail. I probably shouldn't open it, right? So think of it that way. How can you, when you're trying to get, that business owner you got to go and pull out all the stops on the tricks, right? One of the best ways, in my opinion, though, is that interview method, Sandy, and that is what I would do. Okay, Lee asked us a question, and he asked, what's the fastest way to kill a sale? What's the fastest way to kill a sale? So honestly, if you talk about you on the call, that's surely one of the fastest ways to kill that call, right? People don't buy products. People don't buy services. People buy people. People buy emotions. People buy faith and trust and feelings. Okay. So if somebody's calling me and asking me to sell them something, and all I do is talk about me, I'm so good. And we've gotten this for our customers, and our customers love us. You're going to love us. We're great. What have you said about them? Nothing, right? So talk about, not what you do, not you. Instead, talk about them. And more importantly, ask questions, constantly asking questions. And we did this. Go back and look for the replay where we talked about clarity. Go find the replay where we talked about clarity and how we ask questions to clarify. So when a customer, I'm on the phone with them, they say, yeah, hey, I'm calling to get, information about a new website. Okay, great. We can help you with that. So let me ask you first, before we get started, when you say a new website, do you have an existing website? Now remember, they're not used to being talked to like that. They're used to people talking about themselves, talking about their businesses, talking about how great they are and how great they've done for customers. Notice they say, I'm asking about a new website. I could assume new means they don't have one, but we don't assume anything in a call. We clarify. Okay. So can I ask you, do you have an existing website? Oh, yeah, I have one. All right, great. Let me ask you a couple questions. Do you have time? Oh, yeah. That's why I called you. Okay, so on your website you have now, can you tell me, like, what don't you like about it? Is it functionality? Is it look and feel? Like, what's wrong with the current website you have? How old is the website you have? Etc. You're getting clarity. And more importantly, you're talking about them. You're looking for their pain points in the conversation. And the only way people will share their real pain points is if you literally give them the chance to. The more you talk to them, the more you ask them questions, the more they get comfortable and the more they're going to share with you, right? So I'm talking to the guy about a website, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I like the website, but frankly, what I really hate is when I need a change and I call the company, it takes them like 3 weeks to get that change done. And I just think that's, ridiculous. It shouldn't take that long. And then they charge me like stupid money for it. Okay, totally get that. I understand that. So let me just so I'm clear, what is stupid money? Like, what are they charging you? Notice I'm focusing back on that, because what if they came back and said, well, they charged me like $25 an hour. Oh, not my customer. Move on, right? Or they might say, well, they only charge like 75 an hour, but it seems like one little change takes like 3 hours. It just doesn't seem fair. You're trying to get that clarity. So to me, the fastest way to kill a sale is to talk about you, to talk about what you do, to talk about solutions before you even know the problem really, or the pain points. So when I'm on a sales call, I'm really digging in, right? And I'm trying to find out everything I can. Frankly, I want to know, their dog's name if I can, if it's relevant to the conversation, right? And that's where we want to pierce, right? We want to pierce their questions, ask more questions, dig into what they say, and clarify every little point we can. Because then when we get to the close and we want to talk about the end result, okay, yeah, totally get it. I understand. I hear what you're saying. So you don't hate the website. So generally you like it, but you really need someone that's more responsive, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah. And, we'll be very transparent with their pricing and how many hours it's going to take. I mean, does that sound about right? 100%. Okay. Now, if we could do that for you and, help you, is that something you'd like to move forward with right away? Yeah. Yeah. Right now. Okay. Perfect. And then you go on to the close, right? So because you let them talk, because you figured out what their pain points are, you can easily now come in at the end and sound very sympathetic, and not sound like you are, right? You don't want to act, but you're very sympathetic, but you've really identified the pain point. Because when someone says to me, I want a new website, it can mean 1,000 things, right? Sure, they want a new website. So we're going to get them a new website, but why do they want it? Maybe you find out that, oh yeah, because the website, it's supposed to work on the search engine, it's not working. Oh, well, maybe they want SEO, right? Because I mean, just think the website sucks, because of speed. Oh, they need new hosting. Without that clarity, how do you know what they need? Most people talk about a solution before they even have identified the real problem. So Lee, hopefully that answers your question. So I'm going to go to the chat. Those were the questions that were on, and I'll check Facebook again before we end. But I do see that Ariel asked a question, and the question was, how do you manage client expectations when selling SEO services? What a great question. So I'll read the question again. How do you manage client expectations when selling SEO services? So one of the ways that we actually sell SEO is very visual. And what I mean by that is when a customer calls us and somewhere in there we figure out that they need SEO, the very first thing we always do is offer to do a free analysis. Free means I'm going to earn their trust. I'm going to put time in. They're invested by coming to a call and learning about what I found out. And that helps me get all the way in the door and gives me the opportunity to then sell them a service. So how we set up expectations is very simple. In that Zoom call where we present our analysis, we always show them a clear picture of where they are today, where their competitors are today, and what the market space looks like. So in other words, if it's a really easy type of situation, it's going to be very easy for me to say, hey, look, it doesn't look very competitive. I'm guessing, I'm betting based on past experience, we can probably get you, a bunch of keywords to page 1 in 3 to 5 months, right? You could say those words to them. If it's a highly competitive space, and you've illustrated that in that Zoom call, like you showed them, look, your competitor has 50,000 backlinks, you have 2. Your competitors have, a domain authority of 60, and yours is 0. Right? If you've painted that picture correctly, they already know, right? We've already set that expectation by saying, look, here's exactly what's going to happen. And in the sales process, I set them up. I tell them, look, based on our analysis, I think you're in a highly competitive market. So either you're going to need time or money. So depending on what your budget is going to depend on how long it takes. Then we talk about budget. Then once they set their budget, I'll have that conversation. Okay, at that budget, based on our calculations and our software, then we're going to probably get you ranked in this many months. I bet we'll see, results sooner, but at the end of the day, you must be prepared for the long haul. SEO is not science. I'm sorry. I always say SEO is not rocket science, but it is science, right? So we have to go through all these steps that we've identified. And I show them, we have something called our SEO estimator, right? So when you go to our 10X course, we teach you exactly how to do it and how it works, both in sales and in SEO. And every time I follow our calculator, every time we do exactly what's prescribed, we rank almost exactly to the number of what we actually predicted. So I'm very confident when I tell my customers what the expectations are. And I definitely in that Zoom call make them understand this is what's likely going to happen. Now, always add with SEO, always add the caveat. But let's be honest here. Google at any time can do whatever they want, and we don't control that. So we need to always understand that SEO is something that's ever changing. Now, in all the years we've been doing this, Mr. Customer, I'll tell you that SEO is something that if we follow our plan, no matter what Google does, we generally hit it, give or take a month or two. So both ways, either earlier or later. So I am very confident, if that helps, Ariel, when I sell SEO, because I have such a solid SEO process. I know exactly what our team's going to do. And every time we do what we say we're going to do, it works just like we thought it would. If you don't have your processes down, if you don't know really how to get things done on that timeline, it's going to be a lot harder to set those expectations when you don't know what they are yourself. But when you do know what they are, you just tell the customer, right? You just tell them what you want and what you plan on doing. And then from there, you will actually see that customers, when they come back to you, maybe they come back to you 2 months in and say, well, we're not on page 1 yet. You can say, okay, well, let's go back to the call. Do you remember on the call I said, well, let's go look at where you are today. Okay, well, you were at 0 and it's been 2 months. You're now at 1. We told you you're going to have to be somewhere in the 20s or 30s to even be competitive. We're going to need time. And remember, we told you it would take 6 to 12 months. Yeah. I'm just impatient. I get that. You have 2 choices. We have time or money. If you'd like to throw more budget so we can do these tasks quicker, we can definitely get there sooner. I have used that technique, and many times a customer has thrown maybe $2,000 a month at me. And then after 2 or 3 months of frustration, they come back on the call and go, okay, I'm frustrated. I go through that process again with them and they throw me another $1,000 or $2,000. So setting those expectations when selling SEO is very important. Very important, because you get to go back to that call. That's why we not only have the Zoom calls, but we record them as well. Okay, Vince asked, when you do cold outreach via emails or phone calls, do you use in-house staff or do you outsource it to VAs with an SOP checklist and scripts? So Vince, let me say that one more time. So when I do cold outreach via emails or phone, do I use in-house staff, people on my team, or do I outsource it to VAs? VAs are typically on my team too, but somewhere else, with an SOP checklist and scripts. And Vince, I'll answer that very easily. So what I do, number one, when we're doing a new lead gen method, when we're doing any lead gen method, I like to make sure I know exactly how it works and what my numbers are. Meaning, I'll do it myself first, or I'll do it with my internal team first. We'll get it all figured out. We'll get it all processed out. Okay, every time we send 1,000 cold emails, we get 1% rate of return. When we get the 1%, we send them this next email. We do this, we do that, we do the other. And if we know exactly what, after doing it 3 or 4 times, happens, then when you're ready to outsource it to some other people, you have something to measure against, if that makes sense. Number one, I don't do cold calling. So there's no such thing in my world as picking up the phone and cold calling. I don't do it. I do cold email outreach. And as you know, we do a lot of print outreach. But again, we measure everything to the letter. You got to do something 4 times minimum before you kind of can see a pattern. I prefer 6 to 12. So there might really be a whole year of us doing it internally, getting it right, getting it perfected. And then after that, we might outsource it to somebody else or get a VA to do a lot of the tasks. Now, as you know, Vince, in my company, we already have VAs. So, we would just then internalize it, so to speak. We have, I think 24, 26 people, that we're using on a regular basis, so we can internalize it. But process is key. 100% get that, SOP checklist, make sure you've worked it, make sure you know the numbers, you know the success rates, you know every step involved. Once you're there, I would definitely try to outsource pieces of it. Outsourcing the sales part's the hardest part, unless you're doing some kind of funnel or something online or something like that. So hopefully that helped, Vince. And I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, so go ahead and put your questions in the chat if you have them. I am going to check the Facebook group one more time to see if anybody had any last minute questions out there. Yeah, so okay, so here's a question from Colin. Colin asks, can you talk more about conversational sales? Specifically, how you get the client talking more about themselves so you can learn more about them and sell to their needs. Great question. Great question, Colin. Let me ask it one more time so everyone hears it. Can you talk more about conversational sales, specifically how you can get the client talking more about themselves so you can learn more about them and sell to their needs? And it's a great question, Colin. And here's why. I'm always using the term conversational selling, right? Because when people get in that comfort zone with you, that's when they're more likely to purchase from you. If you think about the last car you purchased and you can remember the person who sold it to you, odds are if you are happy with that sale, it's because you liked the person you bought the car from. If you think about big ticket items you buy in your business, oftentimes the reason why you like those ticket items or you feel confident about those sales is either you like the person or the company you bought it from. So conversational selling is just like it sounds. When people call me, I am going to really get in more of a conversation mode, and I like to call it like a consultant. I am there to really dig deep, as you heard me say before, and figure out what the true pain point is. And when we think about what we did previously on that web design example, it's the same idea. But in conversational selling, you even dig deeper than that to get to the emotion. So you might say, oh yeah, so I get it. Some people aren't very responsive. So I bet that made you feel really bad when they, it kind of sucked when they didn't answer your call for like, 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever. Yeah, it did. I mean, I've got 5 kids and I don't have time for this crap. Boom. You just got information about them, right? Their pain point is they don't have time and they need a company that's going to be responsive and give them back time. Why is that important? Because in that conversation, if you know time is their motivator, when you offer them services that take time off their plate and give it back to them, they are going to be more likely to buy those services. In that conversation, though, if they say, yeah, I mean, I would do this myself if I knew how, meaning they have the time or think they have the time, but this is just expensive and I can't really afford, for them to be wasting my money like this. Okay, so maybe money is the problem. They're not making enough revenue. So you can be digging in and having conversations with them. So the next time, it's your turn to speak, you might say something like, totally get it. I mean, we're here to save you money so you can actually put that money back into your business to earn more revenue. I'm sure you'd like more sales, right? Oh yeah, obviously, right? So you're having that conversation. You're really helping them to get a sense of who they are. Let them answer their own questions. Let them sell themselves. That's what conversational selling is all about. They're actually walking their own path. So when you think about a web developer, I mean, what are you really looking for? Like, what's most important to you? Be quiet. What are they going to say? Well, honestly, I want someone who answers the phone. Okay. So now they're going to want to call you. To be honest, when I send an email, I want to know that, I'm going to get a reply at least the same week. Okay. So you reply back the next day and they'll be happy, right? You're getting into a conversation, but let it be one-sided, their side. You're there just to ask questions. In the training we did on clarity, again, go back to that one, you heard me ask questions just simply like, what do you mean by that? So what does that mean to you? Like, what do you think that means? I mean, you're literally almost like a sales psychologist, right? You're just trying to dig in to find that emotion, Colin. And so to me, the number one thing in conversational selling is to ask questions, but don't follow a script. Don't just ask. Everyone knows I hate pitch decks, and that's why. Because a pitch deck says, I'm going to stay on this script. I'm going to do exactly what I'm supposed to do. It's kind of like these Monday motivational calls. I try as I may, not to get scripted too much, because you never know what comes to your head when you're not scripted, right? Sometimes better stuff. So same within a sale. Hopefully that answers your question, Colin, and gives you some clarity. Okay, last call. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. I'm not seeing any more questions on the Facebook post. I'll check that one more time, just do a little refresh here. And if you have a question after we get off this call that all of a sudden hits you, go put it in the post, go put it in the lead gen and sales Q&A post and ask anyway. I'll make a short video to answer and we'll throw that up there for everyone to see. So in closing today, hopefully that's given you some motivation for the day, helped you get in a place to where you can actually start your week off, with a bang. Every week we come here and do these meetings, and we do them, these live sessions, to help motivate you and get your business on a good start. Now, we often talk about, what, right? We talk about what? We talk about big items. We talk about high level stuff. Today, you heard me talk about things like the methods we use and the conversational selling we use. If you're not in one of our programs and you really want to learn more of the how, so what are the methods I'm talking about, right? So when you think about the methods I mentioned, you think about the directory method, the interview method, those are all in our programs. So I encourage you to reach out to somebody, whether it be me or Lauren or Christine or somebody on our team, and ask to sit down with me and have a quick conversation. And the reason being is we have a new wave of people we're going to bring through our agency fast track course starting in August, and we have a limited number of seats. So you're going to want to get on that list if it's something you are interested in, so you get first shot. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go or you're locked in, but we'll get you on the list. You'll get first shot at being one of those limited seats in that program. The reason why we limit the number of seats we have is so we have these types of live calls, except in our program, you get to share your camera, you get to share your mic, you get to ask questions, rebut my answers, and really dig into the meat. So if that's something you're interested in, I want you to go ahead in the chat and put strategy, just put the word strategy in there, and we will set you up with a strategy call. If you're watching the replay and you would like one of those strategy calls, I simply want you to type strategy in the comments down below. Guys, have a fantastic week. And remember, if we want to change our businesses, we have to change our minds first. Have a great week, everyone.